Before we begin, please note that this press conference includes simultaneous and sign language interpretation services. It is available in either full French or full English. If you are watching live, you can find our stream in each language on YouTube. Simply search our channels at City of Ottawa or Ville d'Ottawa. A note to media outlets joining us on Zoom: if you would like audio interpretation, click the interpretation globe icon in the bottom menu, then select your preferred language. You can ask your questions in the language of your choice. Today, we will be hearing remarks from Mayor Mark Sutcliffe, Wendy Stephenson, Interim City Manager, René Amilcar, General Manager, Transit Services, and Enrique Martinez Asencio, General Manager, Rideau Transit Maintenance. Available to answer questions from the media, we also have Councillor Glenn Gower, Chair of the Transit Commission, Richard Holder, Director, Engineering Services, Troy Charter, Director, Transit Service Delivery and Rail Operations, and Nicolas Truchon, Chief Executive Officer, Rideau Transit Group. At this time, I would like to invite Mayor Mark Sutcliffe to say a few words.
Thank you, Kendra. Merci de vous joindre à nous aujourd'hui.
Thank you for joining us today. And I know I'm speaking for everyone here when I say we had hoped today would be the beginning of a gradual return to service for the Confederation line. It's a shame that it's not possible. I want to reiterate the principles that are driving everything we're doing right now. First of all, we will always put safety first. We will not rush to restore service until we are sure that it will be safe for our passengers. I understand the frustration, but we will be transparent about what's happening. This is what residents expect and what they deserve as well. Thirdly, we're following the recommendations of the investigation, including a different and more collaborative approach with our partners and with the Council. I will be meeting with the President of Alstom over the coming days to continue to ensure that we're on a path to a permanent solution and that we will have the system we paid for. Again, I want to thank residents and passengers for their patience. And I want to assure you once again, that we will not rest until we have the permanent solutions and the system that we paid for.
Thank you all for joining us today for this update. I know I speak for everyone who is here when I say we had hoped that today would be the beginning of a gradual return to service for Line 1. I want to thank OC Transpo passengers and Ottawa residents for their patience as we continue to work toward restoring service and implementing a permanent solution to fix our system. I want to reiterate the principles that are driving everything that we are doing right now. First, we will always put safety first. We will not rush to restore service until we are assured that it will be safe for our passengers. I understand the frustration arising from another delay, but safety will always come first. That's why the trains are not running today. Second, we will be transparent about what's happening. The instinct in government is often to withhold information until you're absolutely certain of an outcome. But last week, we saw an example of a new level of transparency. OC Transpo leadership shared the objective of having some trains running again by today, in line with the goal of sharing as much information as possible. And then circumstances changed and it wasn't possible. That's not the outcome that anyone wanted. But I wanted to underscore the transparency of that process. We will continue to share the best information available with you every single day, even if it might change as this delicate and intricate process continues. I think that's what residents want and what residents deserve. We will continue to have regular briefings to make sure the public is informed every single step of the way. Third, we are following the recommendations of the inquiry, including a much different and more collaborative approach with our partners and with council. I want to take a moment to thank Glenn Gower and Steve Desroches, the chairs of the Transit and Light Rail committees, for their cooperation and leadership during this process. The team at OC Transpo has been working collaboratively with our contractors to ensure that we are not only restoring service, but fixing the long-term problems that have plagued the system. We now know that the issues that arose during testing 2 weeks ago are the same problems that led to the incidents in August of 2021 and July of 2022. So the redesign of the axles, which is already underway, is a major part of the permanent solution that we require. I will be meeting with the president of Alstom in the days ahead to continue to ensure that we are on a path to a permanent solution and that we will have the system that Ottawa residents paid for. Again, I want to thank residents for their patience. I want to assure you once again that I and everyone who is here today will not rest until we have the permanent solutions and the system that Ottawa deserves. I'm now going to turn it over to our interim city manager, Wendy Stephenson. Wendy?
Thank you very much, Mayor Sutcliffe, and hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And I know we're entering the third week of LRT service disruption, and I know it's been really extremely frustrating for all of our residents, especially for our transit customers. And the entire team at OC Transpo, at RTG, and Alstom are working diligently, they're working hard, and together to resolve this situation. And we're going to continue to work with our partners to ensure that the conditions for a safe return to service are met as quickly as possible. And the assessment of those requirements is ongoing. And we are encouraged by the work that's happening with Alstom that they're doing in terms of finding the root cause and that final fix to the bearing issue. And I know that our transit customers want and deserve a very safe and reliable service now, and we are making progress towards that goal. We're listening to our customers, and our team at OC Transpo is doing everything possible to improve bus service in the interim. And, that speaks to the new R1 Express bus service that was introduced today. OC Transpo has also deployed resources to assist with the delivery of the R1 service. And I'm going to hand it over to Renee Amokar, our General Manager of Transit Services, and she's going to talk about the augmented service as well as the progress that's being made to meet the criteria for that safe return to service. So over to you, Renee. Thank you very much. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Wendy. Good afternoon, everyone. Bon après-midi, et merci beaucoup d'être présent encore une
Thank
fois.
you very much for being here today again.
We are now in the third week of this disruption. First, I want to say that we have been listening to feedback from customers and how we can continue to improve our service during the ongoing Line 1 disruption. Based on this feedback, today we introduced a new R1 Express bus service. This is in addition to R1 service and provides customers one more option to get to and from downtown during the busy morning and afternoon peak times. The R1 Express is operating with 12 buses in addition to the 36 buses that are providing daily R1 service. Il est à noter que les 12 bus qui sont déployés pour
the 12 buses are extra buses with extra drivers. It's important to understand that because we didn't want to undermine the regular service to provide this express service.
We have been able to redeploy rail operators to assist with the delivery of R1. This means we have enough resources, bus operators, and vehicles to implement the new R1 Express. I would like to thank our rail operators for their flexibility and commitment to customer service to make this possible. And I want to thank our maintenance staff who have worked around the clock to make sure there were enough buses ready to provide R1 Express, and regular bus service. We will continue to listen to feedback from our customers and will adjust service where possible. Merci à mes collègues et employés qui
I'd
ont
like
rendu-
to thank all employees and my colleagues who have made this possible. I'm very, very, very proud of you. This has allowed us to listen to users and has allowed us to react quickly.
When we met last week, we were clear the safety of our customers and our employees is paramount. We are all disappointed that we do not have a solution that will allow us to safely restore service today, but I will not compromise safety. To my customers, I want to say thank you. Thank you for your patience while we solve this problem. I want to emphasize now more than ever, we are working on the root cause of what stopped our rail system and not just the symptoms. We are working on the disease. I want customers remember that Alstom is working on the final fix to the bearing issue, which is positive news. The redesign is now on the way. However, we'll need time. In the meantime, we will operate the fleet with an abundance of caution. As you will recall, we need 3 steps to be able to resume service. 1, inspect all light rail vehicles. This was completed on July 24th. 6 vehicles are undergoing additional investigations. Second, receive a report from Taxalist based on the manufacturer's analysis of the out of tolerance hub, and receive the final safety note from RTG and Alstom. We did receive the Taxalist report on Friday, and RTG and also reviewed it over the weekend. They have confirmed that the degradation of the wheel hub is similar to what was found on the hub assemblies from the 2 previous incidents in August 21st and July 22. This finding reinforces Alstom's conclusion that the permanent solution of the bearing issue is a redesign of the wheel hub. Over the last 2 weeks, a lot of tests have been conducted with an instrumented bogie. After analyzing those results and after the evidence on the failure mode, Alstom has revised the safety note to require there can be no contact between the wheel and the restraining rail. Over the weekend, the focus of the team at RTG, Alstom, and also Transpo, with input from TRA, was to determine the actions required to begin a full risk assessment. After these preliminary discussions, these are the actions required. Return Aikins Global by RTG, an engineer expert to advise on repositioning the restraining rails. Continue discussions to finalize the risk assessment, undertake the repositioning of the restraining rails, and conduct trial running in advance of restoring service. I would also like to note that Alstom will be reviewing the safety note monthly to update it if and when required. In a moment, I will ask Enrique Martinez Asensio from RTG to explain further the work Atkins will do. Right now, it's unclear how long it will take to complete some of these initial steps. At this time, we cannot give an estimate on when we may be able to safely resume service. We know this will be frustrating to our customers. This disruption is difficult for you. I know that. The entire team at RTG, Alstom, and also Transpo are working together to resolve this situation. We will continue to provide you with updates on our progress, and when we are able to, we will provide a timeline to restart rail service. While the team works to address the restraining rail constraints, which is a new requirement of the safety note, RTG is also continuing to change the wheel hub assemblies on the train fleet. Today, 12 cars have had their hub assemblies replaced. This is a good news. These ongoing replacements increase the number of trains ready to operate on Line 1. To conclude, I want to take a moment to thank again our customers for their patience. Also, the residents of Ottawa who are waiting for a world-class system. The mayor, council, and city manager who accept decisions that put safety first. My dedicated employees and departmental leadership team who are working around the clock. RTG, RTM, Alstom, TRA, and for sure, my little tiny team, Richard, Matt, Paul, Troy, Derek, Joel, Lisa, Alana, Amanda, David, Andres. You are working closely with me daily. I'm proud of you, and I would like to sincerely thank all of you. Now I would like Enrique to speak further about the additional engineering expertise LTG is bringing on. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Renee. Following the issuance of the safety note by Alstom and the subsequent update mandating no contact condition between the wheel and the restraining rail, it has become imperative to undertake a redesign of certain track parameters. This measure aims to ensure full compliance with the aforementioned requirement, but also maintaining the restraining rail's capacity to prevent derailments effectively. Consequently, a new engineering assessment is going to be performed in the forthcoming days. To accomplish this task, Rideau Transit Group and Rideau Transit Maintenance have joined forces with Atkins, a renowned international engineering firm, and a member of the SNC-Lavalin Group, having over 80 years' experience in successfully delivering major railway projects worldwide. Leveraging their expertise, Atkins will elaborate the new guidelines for the configuration of the restraining rail and conduct a risk assessment concerning the seamless implementation of infrastructure changes. The level of experience and expertise offered by Atkins in railway engineering give us confidence that the design and execution of the new configuration shall be conducted with efficiency and efficacy, resulting in a short time completion. We expect to see the outputs before the end of this week. Thanks.
Thank you. I will now invite each media agency to ask their questions. You may ask one question with a follow-up. We'll now start with Guy Genville at CBC Ottawa.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. Thanks for your time today. Just get my questions in front of me. I'm not an expert, but just looking at the memo and hearing you speak today, it seems like a lot is riding on the completion of the risk assessment. And so I want to ask my first question. I know you can't give an overall timeline for when you hope to have the Confederation line back up and running, but I am hoping you can sort of at the very minimum give us a sense of when you hope the risk assessment will be completed, because it strikes me that there's a bunch of work that needs to be done, but only after the risk assessment is completed, like, for example, the repositioning of the restraining rails. And I know that in today's memo and in your remarks just now, you said that some of the individual action items you can't say, like when they'll begin or start, but at the very least, do you have even an aspirational goal for when you will have the risk assessment wrapped up? Because that will kind of be a gateway to other things happening.
Thank you for the question. So I will say what is my hope. It's Wednesday, but let's see what will happen tomorrow. And tomorrow on the daily press conference, I will be able to tell you if my hope will be achieved.
Okay, thanks for the honesty, because I appreciate that there's an inherent danger, as we saw in the last few days, about even giving aspirational goals, but I thank you for that answer anyway. My second question was also for you, Renee, and I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to ask a two-part question, so apologies. But city councillors, including the head of the Transit Commission, Glenn Gower, who's on this Zoom, have talked about, he says, the idea of compensating riders to make up for the shutdown. So Renee, what kind of financial effect would that have, given the financial difficulties that OC Transpo is under, and the fact that it relies on transit tolls for a significant bulk of its operating funds. So that's the first part. And B, we're 2 weeks and counting sort of into the shutdown. Do you think at this point that riders do deserve some form of compensation to make up for the loss of service? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. So I will maybe start with the second one. It's definitively customers deserve a good service. And this is my raison d'être. My goal is to provide this reliable service. After that, and I think I said that last time, it will be council decision to see what kind of compensation. But you know that, and we were very transparent at the Transit Commission, we started the year with 39 million, that's shortfall. So we need to find that 30 million. And let's say again, can we just give the service, a good service? And I know that customers after that, we will be able to work with them and to see what the council can do, etc. And I will be, as usual, very, very collaborative.
Thank you. Merci. We'll now go to Graham Richardson at CFRA.
I just want to confirm, Atkins is part of SNC-Lavalin. SNC-Lavalin built this system. And now you've hired them on a contract to tell you how to fix it. Is that correct? How much are you paying Atkins?
Thank you for the question. So I will ask RTG to answer because it's RTG who just hired Atkins and they can provide you further information. Enrique or Nicola?
Well, I'll take a first cut at answering the question. So obviously the issues we're looking at right now, they're not specific to construction. They're more about maintenance. In terms of looking for some of the answers and validation of the way forward, we wanted to go with a firm that had internationally acknowledged expertise with respect to rail maintenance, which is the reason why we went to Atkins.
How much?
The terms of reference are still being finalized, so it's difficult for me at this point to put forward an amount.
If safety is paramount, how is it that a derailment happened? You call it an incident in today's memo. It was a derailment in August of 2021. And in 2023, you find something and usher hundreds of passengers off the trains that is connected to a derailment that happened 2 years ago. How is that possible if safety is paramount?
Thank you for the question. And this question needs a right answer. So safety is paramount for sure. This is our motto here, okay? And the thing is, and I've said that many times, OC Transpo with Alstom, RTG, RTM, we're working on the symptoms. Today, we're working on the disease. We know what is the disease. We didn't know that before. So now we know what is the disease. That's why we can have a redesign, and we will continue to work with the actual fleet with an abundance of caution. We will put a lot of mitigation measures in place. And that's why we have accepted from Alstom that last minute requirement. And we were very, frustrated to hear that. But because safety is paramount, it's better to say we will not resume the service today. We'll do the job that the experts ask us to do. And when we will resume the service, I will be the first to take this trend, and I will invite you, Graham.
While you're all congratulating each other about how hard you're working,
Graham, you'll have an opportunity to ask another question afterwards.
Oh, I'm sorry. Working people are late for work every day. I just want you all to remember that because we're hearing it from viewers, and I'm assuming you're hearing it from riders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to Sarah Crookall at City News Ottawa. Sarah, you may ask your question. All right, it appears that Sarah may be having issues with her mic, so we will go to Ted Raymond at CTV Ottawa.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. I'm not sure who this question is for, but I want to start with talking about the tracks and the restraining rails and the work that needs to be done to keep the wheels from touching it. Could somebody explain what the restraining rail work is that needs to be done, what these restraining rails are for, and why contact with the wheels is a problem?
Richard, please.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Maybe I'll start just by explaining what the restraining rail is. So the restraining rail is located in curves to eliminate the risk of derailment. So that the restraining rail runs parallel to the inside of the rail, and it's offset by approximately 2 inches. And normally there is no contact between the back of the wheel and that restraining rail. The only times that we would expect contact would be if there was a risk of derailment. If a train, for whatever reason, was traveling around a corner and the outside wheels started to climb the outside rail. At that point, there would be contact with the restraining rail and derailment would be prevented. So this is the restraining rail is a passive safety device to mitigate against the risk of derailment. So what the work that was done over the last 10 days by RTG was to set the restraining rails at the maximum position according to the maintenance manual. So there is a tolerance for where that restraining rail can be located. After that work was done, we undertook tests with various trains, and we discovered that contact was still occurring. The new safety note that we have received from Alstom is a new containment plan, and it's set in place new restrictions for the contact with the restraining rail. So previously, contact was occurring, but it was not considered to be applying forces that could potentially cause additional fatigue within the axles. The new safety note that was provided by Alstom indicated that there could be no contact. So there has been a change in state of the system, and that is mainly due to the fact that we've been running the system for 3 years, and all systems go through a process of wear, both of the wheels and of the rails. And so we're currently dealing with that new situation, and there are a number of locations where the restraining rail will have to be moved beyond the tolerance of the existing or the original maintenance plan. And that risk assessment will come back, as Enrique has talked about. That risk assessment will come back and provide assurance that the function of that restraining rail will still be there to prevent derailment.
Okay. So my follow-up question then is just about the issue of the trains and the issue of the tracks. So we have from you assurances and confirmation that part of the permanent fix involves replacing the wheel hub assemblies. And that's this disease that Renee Amilcar is referring to. But are the curves on the track also part of this problem? If the trains are constantly touching these restraining rails and they need to be moved in order for that to no longer happen, is this an issue with the track, or is this something that you expect will be solved by this wheel hub change?
Enrique, please.
Okay, thank you for the question. The permanent solution will be a combination of different actions. One is the replacement and redesign of the axle hub, and the other one is changes in the configuration of the track, as For example, this specific about the restraining rail. As Richard said, theoretically, there shouldn't be contact in normal condition between the train and the restraining rail. Nevertheless, in some operations, it's something that eventually happens. The situation that we have here is that this eventual contact with the restraining rail between the wheel and the restraining rail is creating an issue in the hub, which is increasing the magnitude of the problem, which is why we are trying to solve it.
Thank you. We'll now go to Joanne Loshes at the Ottawa Citizen.
Hi, I just want to make sure that I get the timeline correct. So you're aiming for Wednesday for the end of the risk assessment. Are you able to predict after that if it will be the 10 days that you believed would be necessary to make the adjustments on Friday, or will it be more than 10 days, or can you give me a range?
From now, it's 10 days after receiving after finishing the risk assessment, and Wednesday it's a hope. It's not a final date.
Okay, and this is a bit of a separate question. Has it been hard to find the drivers that you need in order to augment or recruit the number of drivers, bus drivers that you need for the additional bus services that you announced today?
Right.
Well, thank you. As we've said, we've been listening to our customers and making adjustments along the way as much as we can. We were able to reallocate our electric rail operators and diesel rail operators to the bus operation temporarily to support. So we really got to thank our staff for their flexibility in helping out. You know, they've been up until this point in time. They've been out there at the stations providing customer service support. So we've reached out to other agencies within the city of Ottawa to help us with that customer service support, so we could free up these people to help provide the bus service. So we're pulling out you know, all the stops, doing as much as we can to get as much service out there and improve the ride and the experience for our customers. So it's been a challenge, but staff is really rallying around the problem and really trying to support our customers as best we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nous allons maintenant à Rebecca Kwan avec Radio-Canada.
Oui, bonjour. Ma question c'est.
Hello, my question is on the construction of trains. It seems to be linked. The problem seems to be linked to the construction of trains. Does OC Transpo intend to ask for compensation from the build of the trains? This is the P3 partnership. So it's the private sector which provides the service. That's what we paid for when we went out to tender. They gained the tender. So any necessary worker to provide that service is at their costs. Our contract is directly with RTG. There's no compensation to be requested because they have to provide what we paid for. When the service is not provided, we don't pay. This is what the contract says. If you don't provide the service, you're not paid. And you also have to make sure that you provide service on a daily basis. Thank you. My second question now. How much is the R1 service costing the city and taxpayers? Thank you. Well, we're compiling the data. It changes on a daily basis. And when we attend the next transit committee, we'll be able to share that information with council and with the media, but we're currently still compiling it. And we're doing our very best to strengthen service, to provide good service, and we'll do the calculations after that. Thank you very much. Jean-Sébastien Marier, Radio-Canada, TV News. Are you online, Jean-Sébastien?
Okay, we'll give Sarah Kirkle at City News another opportunity to ask her question.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So one of my questions is if replacing the Excel hubs more often is something that you're doing going forward, do you anticipate any supply chain issues? And if so, how confident are you that you'll be able to meet that demand?
Enrique, please.
Okay, thank you for the question. We don't believe that the supply of spare components is going to be a problem in this process. We are confident that the supplier is responding quite well, and we will have enough spares for the future replacements.
And just maybe I can add that that's why we have proposed to run single card to be able to help Alstom MRTG to have this sustainable service as well.
Okay, thank you. And so far, I've heard some good things about the R1 Express. I am hearing quite a few concerns about commuters saying that they're having quite long waits in other areas of the city, the West End. Is there any solution for that? What can riders expect who are in other areas of the city?
Thank you. So, as we said, we are here to listen and to work with our customers for sure. What I know, it's the air on the west is more faster for sure than east. So that's why we have put in place this express line. But we'll continue to see. We'll continue to observe. I know Chagawa was on the west side this morning, and so all of us, we will try to see what we see, what we can do, etc. And we'll continue to definitively improve the service when it's possible.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. We do have time for a second round of questions. If you'd like to ask an additional question, please use the raise hand function and I will go to you shortly. We'll go to Ted Raymond at CTV.
All right, thank you. So I want to follow up on the restraining rails and the track reconfigurations that Enrique had mentioned earlier. So what I'm understanding is that these restraining rails are meant to keep the train on the tracks around a curve to prevent it from going off and derailing. But they're not supposed to actually make contact. In ideal conditions, they're there as a safety measure, but you're not actually supposed to be using them. But the trains have been touching them too much, so you're moving them further out. So would that increase the risk of derailment because the rails aren't there to restrain the train any longer, or does that do they still serve their function in that capacity?
Okay, let's retry it. Okay, so normally the train wants to go straight. When we have a curve, it's normal, and it's normal with your car. If you want to take a curve with your car will debalance, right? So what we're looking for with the restraining rail, it's when the train is turning, we want all the wheel to be on the rail. We don't want any wheel outside of the rail. So the restraining rail will force the high rail, as we call it, to stay on the rail. Okay. And what happened now, and we're talking about millimeter. So we don't want the wheel touches the restraining rail every time. We want that only when it's required. Because the wheel touches every time the restraining rail, that brings an extra forces, which causes fatigue, and that increase the deterioration of the bearing. So that's why. So we don't want constantly touch the restraining rail, but we want the restraining rail to be able to do its job when it's needed. So this is the maths that Atkins will help us to do, because we're talking again about 1 or maximum 2 millimeter. Okay, I don't know if it's clear.
Yeah, no, I understand that 2 millimeters. So like these are small amounts, and that's the same with the bearings. And so I understand where you're going from that. But I guess so my question then is, so this adjustment will still keep will still basically serve the same function, but it will prevent that constant wear on the axle bearing. So was this a case of the track being poorly designed, or is this something else?
Fair question. Maybe it's the we don't know yet, and we will know better. But definitely, it's a maintenance issue because at the beginning, the rail versus the rail and the restraint rail were okay. So why now we have this gap? So we will need to understand this part, and Atkins will probably help us. But definitively, this is something that the quality of the rail could be potential. It could be on the table, but we will continue to work with Alstom to see what is it exactly.
Thank you. Rebecca, vous avez une autre question?
Oui, si c'est possible, j'aurais une question pour Monsieur
Yes, I do have a question for Mr. Glengower. As chair of the City Transit Committee, now we've been talking today about the way the train was built. Do you think it's of some concern that the train has bought defective trains? Do you think that's of concern? Well, this is something we've been talking about for 2 years now, since the 2021 incident. This is something that's been examined by an investigation last year. And this is something that we've talked about and for which we drafted a plan to deal with the issues. That was part of our response to the investigation. So this is something that we've been working on for several years. We have a plan now, and we're looking at further action. We want to make sure that we have a comprehensive system which is safe for passengers at the same time. Thank you very much. And if possible, I'd like to ask a follow-up question to any of you. Are there more bus drivers on the roads now, or have you just reassigned resources? No, there are more drivers and more buses that are now on the roads on the Express Link.
Merci.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Seeing no further questions, this concludes today's media availability. Thank you. Merci.